What's up? What's up? This is the dead space. Here's where I commune with nature. Sometimes the shit I say is so corny, man. I trip myself out. I really do. I really do. What's up, people? While I'm waiting for you folks to show up, I want to show out a little bit. Um, I'm hype. Hey, Gwen. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? You hear me fine? Is everything cool? Can you hear me? Alrighty then. Alright, 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 alright. Just checking everything. Mic check 1 2 1 2. No buzz, no humming, no nothing. Hey people, how y'all doing? Man, look at y'all. My people on time and everything. Oh man, I love y'all. I think I'm gonna my eyeballs sweat. I ain't crying or nothing like that. Cause y'all know I'm too cool to cry. But in the meantime, in between time, I want to wish everybody a good evening. I think for me, it's just as simple as I'm glad to be here. Good. I'm glad you hear me. I'm just, man, I can't believe I've been doing this nonsense for a year now. And even worse than that, I can't believe that we're doing the same thing, talking about the same thing I was a year ago. So here we are. I don't know, man. I just don't know. So all we could do in the meantime is keep doing what we're doing. And people, it's so much happening. You know, I know you guys know this. A couple things I want to do is first I want to just kind of recognize you guys, and I'm looking down on purpose for being here, for being supportive of me for a year. I know y'all got on my nerve. I mean, I got on y'all nerves. Freudian slip, I don't know, but guess what? I would just go ahead and do this. Stay out of trouble for a little bit. What's happening, people? So, let's start off doing this the way we do when we do what we do. Because it's not what you look like when you're doing what you're doing. Oh! I'm glad you guys can hear me. I'm sorry for screaming. Well, you guys don't not wearing earphones, so y'all can hear me screaming. But that's just my energy level, man. My energy level is way up. Let me get hype. I don't know why I bite my lip. I've gotten like 7 inquiries. Why do you bite your bottom lip? I don't know. That's just how we dance, you know. I used to do that, Fade. Whop it out. That's all I need is about 2 minutes to get hyped. We're doing on the moon, y'all. Check it out. In the jungle too. Everybody on the floor now. Jumping like kangaroo. So let the horns do the thing they do. Spaghetti did that. Bang cat bounce. Cadets dig it up, dig it up, dig it up. Other people don't. But everything don't mean a thing if it ain't the shit you want. Let me go ahead and cut that, man. Let me just cut that. I appreciate everybody showing up on time and what have you. First of all, my son is cutting it on and off. Oh, man. Let's see. Where we at? Where we at? Tell me. Because I know some of y'all got them little raggedy iPhones, so, y'all might be having some issues. I want to see, give me a thumbs up. Everybody that can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Mic check 1, 2, mic check. Well, mic sounds nice. Check 1. We good? Okay. Can you folks hear me? Can you 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 hear me? All right. Well, I'm gonna roll with that. Let me go ahead and get back in character. It's hard to believe that I've been doing this for about a year now. It's even harder to believe, like I said, that we're still talking about some of the same issues. Just when we thought 2019 was bad, we rolled into 2020, and here we are. If nobody could have crafted this nonsense. So thank you guys for rolling with me for a year. Thank you guys for getting up, coming out, showing up and being supportive of me. It means the world to me. When I started doing this, I did it because I wanted to write a book on public policy, and I knew that most people wouldn't read it. But the reason I felt a need to write it is because since Jimmy Carter, but more so during the Reagan administration, I saw a shift in policy, and policy is just the rules that govern us. Unlike the Constitution that's kind of carved in stone, policy changes with different political landscapes. So I saw public policy starting to shift, and it didn't include us. It wasn't written for us. So I wanted to write this book. And I wanted to make it interesting enough where the people that are most affected, the people that I care about, would actually want to read it. So with some things happening, I wind up falling into this. And once I fell into this podcast thing, it gave me an idea to take it beyond this. And I'll just share with you, I was approached about some sponsorship, but I like being independent simply because I could say what I want, when I want, and what have you. Case in point, you see what's happening with Nick Cannon. He starts speaking out, and the people that are backing him, some of his sponsors and what have you, they start pulling their sponsorship. So then he has to backtrack and apologize. So I don't have that problem. As I move forward, I want to be able to keep my creative control and say the things that I want, things that I feel I need to be able to say. And that's what makes my podcast a little different. So as I move into this, the thoughts for the night, I'll just say our community is kind of strange. America as a whole likes to keep their nose out of other people's business. Kind of, sort of, they'll talk about it, but they really don't get in to help fix things. But the black community is very different. We have this way of minding each other's business, but when it comes to political decisions that affect us, we're the last ones to get involved. It takes what I call a preponderance of undeniable and inexcusable circumstances that cannot be ignored. When we think about that, we have what I call a triple threat. First it was Brianna, then it was Ahmaud, and then it was George. And the way it happened, the fact that this young lady was asleep in her own house, and then there's some rumors as to this had something to do with the area being targeted for gentrification and what have you. we couldn't help but to get involved. And it was easy for us to get involved once we have it validated by other ethnic groups and what have you. So good or bad is just how it is. For me, that preponderance of events started when I entered the Marine Corps. It was obvious that I was different because I secretly wanted to become a doctor and a lawyer, get my MD and my JD. The first time I shared my goal with someone, the look on their face was like, you think you're better than everybody else? You're from the Desire Housing Project in the Ninth Ward, New Orleans. You know big shit. It's not like I came from Beverly Hills or my name was Carlton Banks, So all it did was motivate me. And that's what we need. That was my preponderance. That's what pushed me into this thing. Tonight, I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about my motivation for doing what I do, wanting to do a podcast and then wanting to take it further. And the second part is talking about a vision as well as a warning to the young people involved with Black Lives Matter. The warning is a result of what I call the ongoing discussion of defunding and the police and redesigning what police departments and policing should look like. As I said last week, when I grew up, the police force had the same reputation, but it was because we had so many white guys policing our neighborhood and no black. So as we started to see blacks going on to the police force, we were hoping that they would be more like, they called me Mr. Tibbs, Sidney Poitier, in the original Heat of the Night. Instead, what happened is they moved into the police department, and I'm just saying this again. I said it last week, but I'm saying it because I think it's very important. As they moved into the police department, instead of them being able to change the police department, I think the police department changed them, and they had to modify it to adapt to that culture. And as a result, some of them became just as bad as a white cop, or they took this hands-off approach of seeing some things happen. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of that. As this happens, a couple things are going to happen. My vision for Black Lives Matter is to really deal with all of the issues that I think affect us as a whole, but specifically, and I keep saying this, heterosexual black men, because about 90 to 99% of those that have been affected, and it's been some women as well, but the majority of this has been heterosexual black men, and it's because we continue the race, or I believe that's the meaning and reason for this. And it goes all the way back to slavery. Those strongest slaves, they were the ones who were picked out to be flogged and what have you. So tonight's podcast is called Police Response, Clandestine, KLAN, as in Ku Klux and Klan, and a Black Lives Matter conspiracy. Going back to Black Lives Matter and me. This is not anything new. We've given it this movement a new name, but we've had the Black Power movement and all of these really movements to seeking the same thing, to be treated as equals, so that when we do something, we're treated the same way as them. When we do something that falls from grace and we make a mistake, the mistake is not blown out of proportion. Those that went to high school with me, they will tell you that I was different way back when. And it was a problem for me. I didn't know why I was different. But what I did know is I knew I was smart. I knew I had a photographic memory, and I didn't want anybody to know how smart I was. As a result, I kind of dumb it down to fit in. But this brings me to the first paradox in Black America. Why is it when a young black man especially is smart, We say things to him like he's talking like a white boy. He thinks he's better than everybody else, or he doesn't know his place. While in high school, I participated in something called Close Up. It was a high school program that brought high school students from around the country to D.C. to observe the three branches of government. So we got a chance to go to the Supreme Court. We got a chance to see Congress in action and meet our representatives, be it House of Representatives and our U.S. senators as well. And then we got a chance to tour the White House. This was 1976. I stood on the congressional floor and I challenged then Louisiana Senator Russell Long and others of this Foreign Service Committee, so we were told, on their decision to bring the Vietnamese here to New Orleans, find them sponsors, get them jobs, and gave them tax-free stipends to get started, while I, as a graduating senior, was pondering, how am I going to pay for school? How am I going to make my dreams come true? Especially seeing as though I became a father in my senior year. So I opted to go in the military, as so many black men do. Now the difference is, back then, the military wasn't as glorious as it is now. There were a lot of guys, especially in the Marine Corps and the Army, who were told, they got into trouble and they said, you can do 5 years in jail or you can do 4 years in the Marine Corps. So a lot of these guys wind up fitting in, because back then they weren't even doing drug testing. So instead of going into the Air Force as I planned, I wound up going into the Marine Corps for two reasons. A, I got a chance to leave sooner, and B, I was born on the Marine Corps' birthday. So I was convinced that it was a little bit of an omen. While I was in boot camp, the platoon commander interviews everybody, and they're kind of sizing you up to find out what your strengths or weaknesses are. So he's going through my test scores, and he says, why didn't you apply to OCS, Officers Candidate School? And I said, I didn't know anything about that. So a lot of times we don't have access because we don't know about programs that are available to us. He says, well, I'm going to help you out. For whatever reason, from that day on, I was either called Private Satchmo because I was always smiling and singing, or I was called Belligerent Batiste because I had this intellectual curiosity. I wanted to know why we're doing this. It's not just enough to tell me to do something. If I understand why, then I do it with vigor and zeal. So, born on the Marine Corps' birthday. Before I go off on a tangent, let me just summarize. I was singled out because I was different. It's obvious I came from a two-parent household. I came from, even though I grew up in a project, parts of the project was very different then. The project as a whole was different then. This brings us to the second plight of what I call intelligent black men in America. When you're different and you enter corporate America, you're either embraced by somebody who brings you under their wing, or you're singled out for a rock in the boat. Malcolm X told the story of being singled out when he voiced his desire to become an attorney. He says his teachers told him black men are better suited as laborers and handymen. So maybe you should pick a job using your hands. And there's nothing wrong with that, but if you aspire to be more, you should be given the opportunity. Despite promises of being given a job where I could use my head and attend school, I was sent to the infantry. Unless you're an athlete or entertainer, America has a tendency to want to stifle the talents of gifted black men, young black men. This is a way of preserving white privilege. This sounds racist, and I don't care. It is what it is, and I'm going to call it for what it is. It's a spade, no pun intended. Sadly, the black community allows this to happen because instead of each one reach one, when one of us graduate from neck bones to T-bones, they forget where they come from. And they adopt this mindset, well, I got my own to worry about. So I made it out. You make it out the best way you know how. Unlike other people, they look out for their own. Why did I bring this up? Because if Black Lives Matter, we must demand that our black men have access and opportunity to pursue their dreams, whatever those dreams may be. Otherwise, we create what I call a street smart baller or master criminal. Case in point, some black men become master criminals because they see the hypocrisy. Again, we saw this with Malcolm X and some young brothers. Now I'm going to use a couple East Coast, West Coast references. In D.C., there was a prominent drug dealer named Rayful Edmonds. In L.A., there was Freeway Ricky Ross. What these brothers had in common, they were put in a situation where they could excel. They had these amazing leadership abilities. Imagine in 1988, I'm in Howard University School of Business, affectionately known as School of B, and we are comparing how Rayful Edmond ran his drug empire and his corner boys to Hewlett-Packard, a Fortune 500 company. Rumor is the character Nino Brown in New Jack City was based on Rayful Edmonds, but people from DC know something about this guy. He was very smart. He had this amazing charisma, And I had a couple of meetings with him, and I won't go off on a tangent to tell you about it. But if Black Lives Matter, young men with natural leadership ability should be recruited for key leadership positions where they can use their powers for good. Otherwise, they wind up using them for evil. God moves in mysterious ways. I was lucky enough to meet a man by the name of Commander Hank Adams at National Naval Medical Center. What was crazy about Dr. Adams, Commander Adams, is he came into the Navy, or he went into the Navy as an E1, a sailor, scrubbing decks. Somebody saw his talent and entered him into what they call the Sailor to Admiral program, STA. This made him a target for a lot of the other doctors and radiologists because they graduated from Brown or Harvard or the Naval Academy or West Point or Air Force Academy. And here's Commander Adams, who comes in as a sailor, E1, and is now a commander looking at Admiral Select. So he had this outstanding talent. On top of that, everybody would talk about Hank did this, Hank did that. And I'm like, no, I didn't. It's not you, the other Hank. Big Hank. I said, Big Hank. And then I see the guy, and he's this little short guy. Little short white guy. He looked like he would be the Grand Dragon of the Klan, but he was the most progressive person that I had met to date. And what he saw in me was some of the same talents that he saw in himself. And what he did is he took me under his wing and he mentored me. I knew when I was going to learn something because he would call me into his office and suddenly I was Mr. Batiste this, Mr. Batiste that. And he introduced these things and he taught me things. He created a job as the radiology manager, and he gave me a career ladder. And people that work with me at Bethesda know how hard I worked. When they decided that they were going to usurp my authority, they wind up breaking up my job between 4 other people. This is the job that I was doing alone. So I wound up doing this for 12 years. Happy ending? No. It usually don't happen that way for us. As soon as Admiral-elect Adams retired and went on to greener pastures, I became a target. Because I was aligned with him, all of those guys that wanted to get at him, some of them took it out on me, and others took it out on me because I was a little too successful. Imagine one of the doctors asked me, he says, "Hank, is that your Porsche?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, how is it you're driving a Porsche and I'm driving a Honda Accord?" I said, "It's probably because you went to a Honda dealership. Had you gone to a Porsche dealership, you'd have been able to drive a Porsche too." He says, "But I'm a doctor. How much do you make?" I said, "How much do you make?" So this was the attitudes even back then. The audacity. I'm not going to go off. As soon as Admiral-elect Adams, rather than accept Admiral and stay in the Navy, he went on to greener pastures. When he left, I became a target. The one who singled me out was the House Negro, a black chief petty officer. And everybody kept telling me that he was not my friend, but I was like, I taught this guy this and I taught this guy that, so, we cool. No, au contraire. This is what we refer to as the House Negro or the crab mentality. You remember last week, you're still on my page, I showed the difference between them pushing each other up and us pulling each other down. And somebody got on my page and went off, "Why are we talking about this?" and blase, blase, blase. I'm saying we're talking about it because it's still relevant, even to this day. It's something that we've been dealing with since slavery, and it's ridiculous that if we were freed in 1863, that's 157 years ago, and we're still seeking to be free. If Black Lives Matter, we have to call these people out. We cannot forgive them or admire them simply because they've been successful, simply because they became a media mogul or a politician or an attorney or a news anchor. I don't care. A spade is a spade is a spade is a spade. Cut it. If Black Lives Matter, we have to see. Let me get back. It makes me angry. It makes me angry because I want to make sure that my grandsons and your grandsons especially, and I'm not dismissing or discounting what happens to women or black women or homosexual black men. I'm speaking specifically about heterosexual black men because they are the biggest threat. It is what it is. As we start to pivot away from this initial momentum of the Black Lives Matter movement, we're going to see who were those people who are dedicated to the cause and have skin in the game, and those who just jumped in it to promote their own agendas. This takes me to the next thing. I call it KLANdestined. Klan, K-L-A-N, destined acts of violence. As long as there are no meaningful jobs in the community, check the narrative, community, not neighborhood, drugs, prostitution, and violence will become commonplace. And it spills into the street and claims innocent lives. We call it collateral damage, but that takes a face off it. These are people, innocent people, who can't go to the bus stop. Little girls that are being harassed by grown-ass men simply because the cops don't come when you call them. It's little boys who have the promise of doing something, and believe it or not, yes, there are pedophiles who like little boys too. So little boys are created to become, okay, enough about that. It's bad enough when it happens out in our community and we do it, because some of it has been created by the system that's much stronger than us. But what's happening now is this clandestine, KLAN, destined acts of violence in our communities. And it's happening in New York, it's happening in New Orleans, it's happening in LA, it's happening in Chicago and other urban areas where people are coming into our community dressed up and disguised as one of us. And they're committing all types of crime, even murder. On top of that, to add insult to injuries, now we see this knucklehead has this commercial for his re-election. And what the commercial says is Joe Biden wants to defund police, so if you call in, we're just not going to answer. And if you read between the lines, it says, to all of you people that were talking about redesigning police forces, you're on your own. So not only will we come into your neighborhood and cause issues, when something does happen in your neighborhood, we will drag our feet about investigating and solving the crime. Why? Because blue lives matter too. And I got a blue flu. Bullshit. We have to hold them accountable. What angers me most is not just any senseless loss of life. It's the political ads like this idiot. What angers me most is when these agitators posing as protesters come into the community, when these white extremists come into the community, and these so-called thugs, these so-called corner boys, these so-called gangsters don't do shit to stop them, don't do shit to challenge them, but they will draw a gun on their so-called enemy. Who's the bigger enemy? An enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if you're, and I'm just going to use two common gangs, if you're a Crip and I'm a Blood, and we see this white guy come up in here starting shit, we should be taking him down. You understand what I'm saying? Not allowing it to happen. We shouldn't allow him to take down one of us and force us against each other, but even more so, we shouldn't allow him to just pop off in the neighborhood claiming innocent lives. Pisses me off to the utmost pissosity. So I'm going to move on. When strange cars and outsiders come into our community for the sole purpose of committing violence, we should challenge them. If they're not there, if they're not from the neighborhood, we should challenge them to the utmost. That's all I got to say about that. When the police doesn't answer the call for help, it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy to allow things to happen to prove their work, to prove that they're needed. We're not saying that as a police officer, and many of my friends, I say this again, and I hate to have to use disclaimers, I really do. But this is the world that we live in. I'm never politically correct, but I'm going to give shout outs to those people that need them. There are some good cops out there. There are. Many of them are my friends. Many of them are my families. They make a difference. They try to make a difference. When things happen and they're not allowed to do their job, we should stand up for them. We shouldn't hold them responsible for trying to maintain their own safety. We should be standing up with them to bring this community back in line. That's the conspiracy. When somebody allows something to happen and these collusioners come together, be it a president or somebody on the police union or a white extremist group or nationalist group or whatever they call themselves. I say, young black, intelligent, naive young men with God-given talents are spoiled. They are systematically stifled. I was told, despite me being in the top 1% of my profession, I would not get the agreed upon career ladder that was agreed to by me and Commander Adams when I was hired. I was told this, and I was literally told, I said, well, okay, if it's a matter of money, I do the budget. I can just put it into the budget next fiscal year. And I was told, no, it's not a matter of money. It's a matter of you not knowing your place. And I'm like, this is 1994. I've been here since 1988. And you have the audacity to say what? To my face? And I'm looking at this black chief petty officer seated next to the door. And Ralph Ellison popped into my head, the spook who sat by the door. And the guy told me, he says, I can't be racist. I'm a Jew. I'm like, a racist can be any color. A racist can come from any background, any ethnic group, any racial mix, any socioeconomic background. Anybody that holds something against somebody simply because of the color of their skin is a racist. So when Captain Silverman told this to me, I told him, I says, you're right, I don't know my place. But it's because I have not decided what my place is. When I do decide, that decision will be made by me and my talents and my God, not Chief Petty Officer Cotton, the spook who sat by the door, or Captain Adams. Because we all have an inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If Black Lives Matter is to mean something, then we owe it to our young people to ensure that all of them have the right that Thomas Jefferson wrote about in the Declaration of Independence. We need to make sure that the blank check that Dr. King spoke of does not continue to come back. NSF, non-sufficient funds. It's 2020, and God says it's the only stimulus check that we need. So I'm going to reel myself back in. I'm going to cut it right there. We know if Black Lives Matter is to continue to progress, if Black Lives Matter is to be something that's sustainable, if Black Lives Matter is to be something that's going to be progressive, we have to come up with tangible ideas that are achievable. And to that effect, you saw today that I started a new Facebook page, ABA IGS 2S. ABA, a Black agenda for policy initiatives, because I got something to say. As always, important, I love you guys. Thank you for supporting me for the last year. Thank you for coming here week in, week out, and listen to me rant and rave. You guys make me who I am. You make me want to keep on doing what I do. the message isn't from me. The message is bigger than all of us. So to that, I want to tell you, I want to remind you, go to my YouTube channel, check out the videos. If you came in late, go to the YouTube channel and do your homework. Those guys that's been rocking with me for the last years, those guys that's been rolling with me from the beginning, you're going to be the first to get invitations to my new page. Some of you guys have already received it. I'm going to put that link on my regular Facebook page. And what I want you guys to do is go there. Befriend me. If I don't send you a friend request, send me one. ABAIGSTS. A Black Agenda. I got something to say. That's it for tonight, folks. As always, imparting. I'll see you next week right here. I've been rocking for a year. Ain't no stopping me now. Thank you for letting me be who I be. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste station, same damn Baptiste place. Holla at me. Love, peace, hair grease. I'm out of here. Good night, folks.